Visit OnFireTV.com for live top stories, breaking news, and original shows.
Welcome back. You and Diamond K in here, of course. The DiamondKShow.com, OnFire-TV.com. A lot of things that we need to get into. Election Day here in Maryland is just a few short days away on the Tuesday coming up, the 19th. Very excited about that, and I am very pleased that we are joined by one of the gubernatorial candidates. I'm really looking forward to speaking with, and we will do that right after this. The Flywire and TFP Entertainment presents the Flywire's 15th annual White Tie Affair. Baltimore's biggest and most celebrated event returns Sunday, July the 24th, 5 to 10 p.m. at Hammerjacks, the outdoor venue, 1300 Russell Street in downtown Baltimore. So it's been 2 years since this party has graced us, and it is going to return with an exceptional, fun, and elegant red carpet cocktail reception, music by DJ Kibi, DJ Tons, and Super DJ Big L. Tickets on sale right now. This is a all-white party, so the attire is fly and all white. Ladies, it is outdoor. There's gravel, so don't wear high heels. Sneakers, sandals, wedges, flats, highly recommended. Tickets on sale right now, hammerjacks.com. So I am joined by a former nonprofit executive, comes with a lot of experience by way of that, and he is running for governor of Maryland. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Jon Baron.
Thanks for having me, Diamond K. It's a great pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So you have been busy campaigning, and I'm really pleased that you took some time to talk with me and our audience. And largely, we were talking off camera, a lot of people still undecided. This race is still wide open.
Absolutely right. The latest polls show that more than 60%, almost 2/3 of voters still don't know who they're going to vote for. And many of the people who have tentatively decided say they could change their mind. So it really is a wide open situation, as you just described.
Yeah. So as far as this race, what made you want to run for governor? Why did you do that?
Well, just to give you very briefly my background, as you mentioned, I'm a former nonprofit executive. I founded and ran a nonprofit for 14 years. Before that, I headed a $1 billion technology program in the Clinton administration. I've been an appointee of Democratic and Republican presidents, and twice confirmed by the Senate. I've gotten major federal legislation enacted into law that's benefited our state, Maryland, and many other states. The reason I'm running for governor is that Maryland isn't making progress on major problems that are damaging millions of lives, and I'm offering a fundamentally different approach. In education, for example, more than a quarter of middle school students in our state can't read at a basic level. Those numbers are no different than they were 20 years ago. More than 500,000 Marylanders live below the poverty line, and our state has made no progress reducing our poverty rate in more than 30 years. Moderate income Marylanders have seen flat wages since the 1980s, while income inequality has soared. Racial inequities persist in all of these areas.
Yeah.
Our state, we can't just keep doing the same thing we've been doing for decades, rolling out one unproven government program after another and expect a different result, because unfortunately, many programs, even well-meaning programs, just don't work. Instead, to make progress, we need to expand solutions that don't just sound good, but have actually been tested in the real world and shown to make a big difference in people's lives. And that's what I would do as governor. And I'd love to discuss, some of those solutions with you.
Yeah. I agree with everything that you said. And I think that most voters agree with that. And I guess it comes down to who they feel can get these things done.
Right.
As far as the governor, what, in your opinion, is the number one job of the governor?
The number one job of the governor is to solve major problems. Poverty, stagnant wages, failing schools. That's what a governor does, really, to improve people's lives in areas where they are hurting. Now, what I would offer in that regard, different from other candidates, is not just the same old of we're going to try this new unproven thing, this new initiative, roll it out and hope it's going to work. What I'm offering are solutions that actually do work because they've been tested somewhere and shown to work. Let me give you one example in the area of increasing wages.
Okay.
One of my top initiatives in my first 100 days as governor would be to partner with businesses across the state of Maryland to provide effective job training to every young adult in the entire state who wants to advance. If it's done right, job training has been shown to increase earnings as much as $8,000 a year, or 40%. But the key is to focus that training on fast-growing industries like IT or healthcare, and to work hand in hand with employers who provide paid internships to the trainees. So under my plan, the state will pay for the training, the employers pay for the internships, our economy gets skilled workers, everyone benefits from this.
Yeah, I mean, your approach is different, although it is sensible. We have been consistently having the same issues over and over again. As far as I want to stay on education for a minute.
Yeah.
Now, with regards to Baltimore and the problems that we have here with our education system, what are some things that you think could be done here to help improve things directly here, aside from what you just mentioned?
Yeah. Well, in Baltimore schools are in a very serious situation, and they have been for a long time. And I've gone back. I don't know if others have done this, to the governor's elections of the 1990s, and they're all talking about the need to improve schools around the state, and especially the urgent need to improve schools in Baltimore. And here we are, more than 20 years later, still mired in the same problems. In Baltimore specifically, I mentioned the overall Maryland numbers, but 50% of eighth graders in Baltimore can't read at a basic level, and more than 60% can't do basic math. So those numbers are even worse than the Maryland averages. And a quarter of kids in Baltimore never graduate high school. I mean, what's the future for these kids? We're just perpetuating a cycle of poverty. So here's what I would do. Again, focus on solutions that have been shown to work. Number one, we would provide high quality tutoring, partner with Baltimore schools to provide high quality tutoring to every struggling first and second grader in the entire city. It's about 40% of all students in first and second grade. We would do that because tutoring in the early grades has been, if it's done right, has been shown to move them these kids up toward grade level early, before their problems get serious in later grades. And we would do this by recruiting an army of people from the community, including retirees and recent college graduates, to become tutors for a modest stipend as a public service. Essentially, it would be a community-wide effort to make sure that every student, every young kid starts their educational journey with success. That's one example.
Where does that money come from?
Well, actually, I propose this not just for Baltimore, but statewide. Mm-hmm. And if we do it statewide in the way I've described, where you're tapping into the commute people from the community, that's a very cost-effective way to do it. It would cost about $200 million a year to do it for every struggling first and second grader in the entire state of Maryland. That's not nothing, $200 million a year. Right. But in the context of the state's overall education budget, and even the increases that are slated under the blueprint, it is a small fraction. So this is a cost-effective investment that could be done with funds from the blueprint. It's at a point in time early in the child's schooling that could make an enormous difference.
Definitely, and like you said, those early years are the foundational ones, and that's, if we can get them then, that would definitely make a difference. Let's talk about infrastructure for a minute. What are your thoughts on the red line?
Well, I was very disappointed when Governor Hogan canceled the red line, extremely disappointed. We absolutely need an effective east-west transit solution. Presumably that's the red line. I was very proud of our congressional delegation for getting that reconsideration of the prioritization of the red line included in the bipartisan infrastructure bill. I absolutely I support it. And, the studies have to be done and so on. The bottom line is we need an effective transit solution. There's no question about that for Baltimore, an east-west solution. The red line is the leading candidate, and I expect that to be the one.
Yeah. That is something that just infuriated me. Governor Hogan, and I go on about that. Okay, so as far as the infrastructure, mass transit, you are support that and want to see that grow.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about the economy and jobs for Marylanders. What are your thoughts? Because I know that you have some ideas that are different, because we need something to jumpstart things.
Yeah. That is it is the biggest problem in Maryland. The biggest long-term problem is, what I mentioned earlier, just to elaborate for a moment. The bottom 40% of Maryland households have seen flat wages since the 1980s after you adjust for inflation, while the top 60%, and especially the top 20 and 10%, have seen growth. So we've had an enormous increase in income inequality. But apart from the inequality thing, what this means is that the American narrative of optimism and progress, the idea, of a rising tide to lift all boats, what we've known since World War II, the idea that each generation is going to do better than the last, that no longer applies to nearly half of our people.
Right.
That's not normal.
Right.
After World War II, the income of everybody was rising. And for the bottom 40%, their incomes doubled after adjusting for inflation between the end of World War II and 1980. So this is very different. And you wonder, all of the anger and cynicism and so on, how much is due to this fact that so many people are just not doing better? It kind of, I think, is self-evident. Now, what would we do about it? The first step I proposed was in terms of jobs and wages is the partnership with businesses to provide proven effective job training programs, what I described earlier, because that can raise wages 20 to 40%. That can really make a difference. There are other things we can do. Another highly effective approach, and my philanthropic team was involved in this and its expansion, is career academies especially in high poverty high schools. These are small communities, learning communities within high schools that have a career theme like healthcare or engineering, and close partnerships with local employers who provide summer jobs for the high school students. They have been shown to increase long-term earnings by about $3,000 per person 11 years later. That's a huge difference. And that's true not just for the kids who go on to college, but for the kids who don't. One of the things we need to do, and these are just two examples, there needs to be a path forward for people who go to college, and most don't graduate. Most young people don't graduate, don't ever get a degree. There needs to be a path for them to get the skills, the credentials, and so on, to make it into the middle class themselves.
Right. A lot of it is like I said, common sense. It's training, tutoring. I love how you consistently talk about involving the community and involving others, because they're affected by everything that happens with the children. They definitely are. So the career academies, I like that. And of course, people are going to say money. Where is this coming from? Where, how are we going to pay for this? How we're going to pay for that? I also like in your background the fact that you've worked, with Democrats and Republicans.
Yeah.
And that bipartisan involvement is good. Would you consider yourself to be a moderate or a progressive?
That's a good question. And I'm not going to give you a straightforward answer, because the true answer is not so straightforward. My goals are progressive, and solidly in the Democrat, and I'm a lifelong Democrat. You hear me talking about reducing ways to reduce poverty, increase wages, improve public education. But when it comes to how do we get there, I'm really a pragmatist. It is a function of what actually works to get us there. What are some tested solutions to get us there? And that's how I really differ from the other candidates. I mean, one of the other candidates in addressing those same progressive goals, they miss a fundamental point, which is that many government programs, no matter how well-intentioned they are, don't work. They don't improve people's lives. And so when the other candidates propose, as they have across the course of this campaign, to roll out one new or expand an unproven program after another, I mean, that's just a recipe for more of the same. And that's what we've been doing for decades. So my strategy for achieving those progressive goals is very different. It is focusing on solutions like the ones I've described, like the tutoring, that have been shown to really, really move the needle on stagnant wages and low student achievement and all the rest.
What would you say to your opponents that may say you don't have the experience in elected office to do what you want to do? And who's this fly by night coming through here? And obviously you're not that, but some of your detractors may come at things like that.
Yes. Well, you must have been talking with Doug Gansler, because that's his line. He's the only experienced person in the entire field. I agree that experience is extremely important. I mean, I couldn't agree more, but it has to be the right kind of experience. My dad was a doctor, and he used to say that 30 years of doing the wrong thing is not clinical experience. Meaning, the last thing we need in office, as in the governor's office, is someone who has experience doing the same thing we've been doing for decades. Because again, that is a recipe for more of the same and lack of progress. What I bring is experience in driving major policy change, working with Democrats and Republicans to expand solutions that actually work, that have been tested and shown to work. So for example, I founded a nonprofit and ran it for 14 years. It was extremely effective. We worked with the Bush and Obama administrations to advance what are, not to get into they're called the tiered evidence initiatives. And they were major reforms. They had bipartisan support. These are together amount to about $1 billion. And these are spending programs that focus federal funds on solutions like the ones I've described, tutoring and others that have been shown to work. So we got those enacted into law. They were very successful in raising wages and education levels and the rest. Later, I headed the largest philanthropic initiative in the country, most recently, up until last year, that identifies and expands proven effective social programs. And again, I've been an appointee of Democratic and Republican presidents. So what I bring is experience in driving major policy change that is truly effective. And
in order for things to change, we need some policy changes. The way things are currently set up is just to continue what's been going on. And speaking of what's been going on, I don't know if you have been following this, but I think that Baltimore is at war with the squeegee kids or squeegee men, squeegee workers. We recently had a tragedy in downtown Baltimore with regards to that. What are your thoughts on squeegee workers on that whole controversy?
Yeah, that was very, very sad, the recent incident, and the larger issue. I mean, it is a reflection of the fact that we are failing. Our society is in policy. Our leaders are failing in giving young people the education and the training and the skills they need to succeed in the workforce. I mean, these young people are doing it, these kids and, young adults, because they they don't have access to, they don't have the training, the skills to earn a decent living. So they turn to this. It's really a reflection of that. That's why we need things like career academies that I described, and effective job training programs as I've described. And in the schools, we can't settle for the same old, kids not reading in 8th grade and things like that. We have to do things different. Tutoring. One other thing we could do that is very concrete to, again, give these kids the education they need to succeed is expand proven charter school models, public charter schools like KIPP charter schools. These are no excuses charter schools. My philanthropy worked with the Obama administration to expand them with a $50 million grant. They're found very effective. KIPP schools in particular were found to increase school-wide reading and math achievement by 10 percentile points and increase long-term college attendance rates by about 6 or 7 points. They exist to a small degree in Baltimore. We should expand that significantly. So long story, the short answer to your question is we need, on the squeegee kids, we need to give young people the skills, the training, the education they need to have a decent job and earn a decent living.
Yes, absolutely. And it's all connected. I mean, we're talking about education, we're talking about infrastructure, and the lack of opportunities and poverty. It's all connected. Connected to crime, which is something else I want to talk about. As far as crime and poverty in Baltimore, and what is the state's role in this?
Well, crime, as you know, I think everybody knows, is a very serious issue in Baltimore and in other parts of the state. I mean, people deserve the security of being able to go about their daily activities, to send their kids to school, and everyone should feel safe. And when we don't have that, that is just an urgent. It's an urgent problem. It would be one of my top priorities to partner with Baltimore to address it. I mean, Baltimore has, 7 years in a row with more than 300 homicides per year,
right?
Which is back where we were in the crime wave of the 1990s. So one of the things I would do, again, at the beginning of my administration, because I would prioritize this, would be to partner with Baltimore city officials, including the police department, on crime prevention and crime fighting strategies that have been tested elsewhere and found to reduce crime. I'll give you one major example. There are others. There's an approach to crime fighting that's called focused deterrence, which recognizes that the majority of violent crimes are carried out by people who are repeat violent offenders.
Right.
And this approach invites these individuals in for meetings with social service agencies and community leaders and law enforcement, and offers them a positive way forward, like counseling and job opportunities and so on, but also makes clear that if they continue to act violently, they're going to be the focus of extraordinary attention from law enforcement. Now, when it has been implemented effectively, as it was in Oakland, California, for instance, there it helped bring down the homicide rate over a 5-year period by about 50%. It was a very steep drop, and it's been found effective elsewhere in New Orleans and elsewhere. So the police chief Harrison in Baltimore is receptive to it, and the mayor is receptive to it. And as governor under my administration, we would be a full partner both on the law enforcement side and on the opportunity side in making it successful, providing all the resources, the staff, and so on to make this work.
So essentially, you're putting the I don't know, putting them on notice, right? You're putting them on notice, and you're letting them know you're on our radar. What can we give you with regards to help to kind of stop what you're doing? Because if not, we're going to turn it up. Is that essentially what you're saying? And we're going to focus. So in order to reduce crime, in your opinion, is about focusing on these repeat offenders, these groups that keep doing things, and either getting them to stop or getting them off the streets, and that will help us reduce. That
is right, and you put it very well. I think that Police Chief Harrison described it as we'll help you if you let us, but we'll stop you if you go in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I like that. And, a partner in Annapolis is what Baltimore needs. And I just feel that we have not had that. We've had an adversarial relationship. I think that, the governor's mansion has had that with the mayors here in Baltimore for the entire time that he has been there. And so the black female mayors that we've had, I think that he's had an adversarial relationship with them, and with regards to your running mate, Miss Williams, what made you select her? What I think that is she could have been mayor here in Baltimore. She checks all of those boxes. What? Tell me something about Miss Natalie Williams.
Natalie Williams is wonderful. That's the overall thing I would say about her. I've gotten to know when we started together as running mates, we knew each other some. I knew her background and everything. She's a terrific communicator, among other things. But just as far as her background, she is a well-respected political leader. She was the head of the Ward 8 Democrats in Washington, D.C., as well as a communications professional for a number of nonprofits, and a healthcare advocate. She is among other things, she's a breast cancer survivor and started a foundation to increase breast cancer awareness among women of color. On the campaign trail, I think we're an interesting combination. I mean, you've heard my communication style. A lot of it is about the details of the programs, and they've been shown to increase earnings, 20, 40%. She's very different, and I think complementary. She talks about it from a personal, just in a more more natural way, but it's a more personal communication style. I love doing events with her. She's a wonderful running mate and thought partner, and I think she'll be a terrific lieutenant governor.
Yes. How much I really enjoy your commercials. And so when you're knocking on doors and you're talking to folks, what do they say about your commercials?
Well, thank you. They say, you're the guy on the bike.
Right.
Yeah. So the tandem bike commercial with Natalie. And I love that. I love discussing that with them. And it makes me think, well, we at least they paid attention to it.
Yeah. It's different. It's different.
Yeah, that's right. And it's different, and I think it accurately reflects our message. And it's a different message than other candidates. And I hope people are getting that. It is, we're not getting anywhere. That's, we're on this bike and we're doing this in front of a green screen and we're pedaling and we're not really moving. And that's a sort of the metaphor for we're not really getting anywhere. We need to do things that are different, that are tested and shown to work. And we also make the point, frankly, that a lot of Democrats don't make. But it is true. And I think our party needs to recognize it. Government has an extremely important role to play, but we have to be smart about it. We can't just fund things and say, well, we're spending money on the schools or whatever, and that's all we need to do. The details of what we fund matter a lot. And that's what we try to, whether we're funding something that's really effective or we're funding something, as many things are, that are well-meaning but don't work, don't improve participants' lives. So that's a challenge to get across in a 30-second commercial, but we try to get a hint of that.
Yeah. If you've been following what a lot of pundits are saying, that this is, and I guess if you look at history, the Republicans are coming back big, and this is going to be a disaster for Democrats. Do you really think that you can defeat whoever the Republican nominee is, or are we doomed for more Republican policies here in Maryland?
I think it depends on a lot of things. What happens between now and November, of course, and who the Republican nominee is. It looks probably going to be Kelly Schultz. Right. I think would be a formidable candidate. If it's Dan Cox, I think that would be very bad for our state and very bad thing for the Republican Party to do, because he's perpetuating a lot of the Trump, and he's supported by Donald Trump and espousing Trump's views. So, but getting back to your question, I think my message is one that attracts Democrats, independents, and moderate Republicans. That's been true across my career. As I mentioned, I am a lifelong Democrat, but I was appointee of President Bush and of President Clinton. So I have bipartisan background. I have worked with Democrats and Republicans to get a lot of these major reforms enacted into law. And the reason, and my message all these years and throughout the campaign is, I am not advocating a major expansion in state spending or taxes or the size of government. I am advocating a major expansion or increase in the effectiveness of government. The idea that when we spend money, when government spends money, we should be spending it on programs that actually work, that improve people's lives. And that is a message throughout my career and on the campaign trail that appeals across the aisle. It's just a common, as I think you said it, I hope you said it, it's common sense. This is the way we ought to be doing things. Yeah. It's not a democratic idea particularly.
So it's more about what we're spending the money on, not just spending a whole lot of new monies is what you're saying.
That's exactly
right. Yeah. So I agree with that. And it's about getting it done. A lot of folks don't want change. There's some people at the top that like the way things are, and so you would be battling that. Do you have a preference for who you would face in the general election?
I hope, I hope for the sake of the state of Maryland, I think Dan Cox would be an easier candidate to run against, but I hope for the sake of everyone and our society and the social fabric and all the rest, that it's not him, that Kelly Schultz is the nominee.
Well, so you don't subscribe to the, because some Democrats are thinking, I've been seeing there's some PAC that's has an ad that I think is kind of promoting Cox almost. Right. So there's this thinking nationwide that the far right candidate, they kind of highlight them almost, and they think that that's an easier race. So do you think that's an easier race against Cox?
I do, but I am so that is just a cynical approach, and
it can backfire because it can backfire.
It can backfire. It's too clever by half. I think that's what the expression is.
Yeah,
it really can backfire. You're exactly right.
Yeah, absolutely. I really appreciate the time that you spent talking with us. As far as folks finding out more about you, supporting the campaign, how can they do that?
First of all, Diamond K, thank you very much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it. I've enjoyed this immensely. If people want to learn more about my campaign, the place to go is jonbaron.com. And there you have it on the screen, jonbaron.com, with John without an H.
Right. As far as closing out, if you could just tell folks again why you are the best person for the governor's mansion in Maryland.
Because, my goals are democratic: improve public schools, break the cycle of poverty, and so on, increase wages. But unlike other candidates who are just going to roll out, whose approach is just to roll out one unproven plan after the next and hope it's going to work. That's what we've been doing for decades. That's a recipe for more stagnation and all of these long-term problems like student achievement and the rest. My approach, along with Natalie Williams, my running mate, is fundamentally different. It is funding solutions like the ones I've described that have actually don't just sound like good ideas, but have actually been tested in the real world and shown to make a big difference in people's lives, like statewide tutoring, job training, and partnership with local employers and all the rest. 20 years from now, Are we going to look back at this time and say, we faced all of these persistent problems, stagnant wages, stagnant student achievement, stagnant poverty rates, and we just kept doing the same thing again and again? Or will people look back at this time and say that in this moment, Maryland did something extraordinary? We led the nation. We pioneered a new governing approach based on solutions that don't just sound good, but have actually been tested and shown to make a big difference in people's lives. And that we finally moved the damn needle on education and stagnant wages and racial equity and all these other problems. That's the future that I want for Maryland. And I'm asking for your vote next week. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's really good. I mean, what you're talking about, some people are going to say is too bold, but bold action is exactly what we need. And it's not bold for the sake of being bold. It's not reckless. It's proven. And I like your approach, and definitely best of luck to you.
Thank you very much. Again, thanks for having me.
Thank you. All right. Once again, we had candidate Jon Baron on, and I really enjoyed the conversation talking with him about his strategies and what he has in store and why he wants your vote. Tuesday, July the 19th is, you got to make it happen. Okay. That's when you have to get out and vote. And I really want folks, I encourage you to get involved. You must vote. You cannot sit back and complain about what's happening and not participate in the process. So you have some homework to do. You have a little bit of time, not a lot of time, a little bit of time, and visit Jon Baron, jonbaron.com. A lot of things happening here in Maryland, and it really starts and ends with our leadership. So folks, get involved. Time is of the essence. And the Maryland primaries. We'll be back here tomorrow, of course, at 6 p.m. But in addition to that, election night, 8 p.m., we're going to be covering all of the races and talking about everything. So join us then on fire-tv.com. Of course, oh my goodness, I cannot get out of here without talking about the Baltimore Crown Awards has been connecting, developing, honoring, and promoting the Baltimore scene. Get your green clothes ready, formal, semi-formal, however you feel fly. The 2022 Baltimore Crown Awards is an emerald party. The Baltimore scene is green. Nomination process happening right now, and this will determine the actual nominees for the show. We need your input. So visit the baltimorescene.org, the baltimorescene.org. The 16th annual Baltimore Crown Awards goes down Saturday, November the 19th at the Garage, 6 Lafayette Avenue in Baltimore, 21202, hosted by Desi Alexander. As I said, tickets on sale right now, the baltimorescene.org, the baltimorescene.org. So I really enjoyed my discussion with Jon Baron and Marylanders. This is an important race. We need you to get involved. Of course, marketing at thediamondkshow.com. You need to get in touch with me. Also on YouTube, search The Diamond K Show or DJ Diamond K. I will be in the mix on Saturday, 6 p.m., spinning some Baltimore club music. Always excited. Always like when I can get on those records, man. Those records. On social media, I'm at The Diamond K Show. Of course, on fire-tv.com. I will see you guys tomorrow.
Visit onfiretv.com for live top stories, breaking news, and original shows.